Hi, seventh graders. I feel like it has been a very long time since I've created a video, either for seventh graders or for my eighth graders. So I'm like, how do you do this again? Ay, ay, ay. Okay, so happy Monday. Today you are going to be spending some time making some progress on some notes. All of those notes are related to us trying to explain why the revolution began. Why were colonists feeling like they had to um, change things up, right? Like they could not continue living the way that British Parliament wanted them to live. So I'm going to run through a few slides with you. Notice that there are 6 total slides. One of them is a title page, and then 5 of them have a couple of bullet points on each page. I'm not expecting you to write every single word down. I know that some of your classmates will be writing every word down. I know if I was taking notes, I like to make sure that I have everything that's on the screen down, but then also understand that some people are able to summarize and put things into their own words. So do your best with the strategy that you would like to tackle with taking these notes. Okay, the title of this presentation or this lecture, this direct instruction is The Road to Lexington and Concord. Okay, we're really going to explain why the revolution began. In the red there, it says, please record these notes into your quarter 2 notes doc. Okay, so far in your quarter 2 notes doc, it's really bare. So I expect this maybe is probably, I think, the first thing that you're really putting into that document. Okay. Before I move on, I want to make sure that you know, because I'm only limited to 15 minutes on recordings, I'm going to make sure that I give you the information that you need, but then also know that you can pause the video whenever you need to get the notes in. Okay, so pausing at the end of each, like even at the beginning of each slide, so you can write it down on your quarter 2 notes, and then you can listen to it once you have all of it down, and then you can say, oh yeah, okay, got it. Okay, so let's move on to our first slide. So this slide is telling us about the first Continental Congress. Okay, in September 1774, there were delegates that felt it was extremely important for people from the colonies, each of the colonies, to come together to decide how are we going to revolt. Revolt's kind of a dramatic word, but to defy Parliament. Delegates from all of the colonies except Georgia met in Philadelphia. Later, we find out that Georgia actually didn't send any delegates, but they still voted to do what the delegates decided at the First Continental Congress. The meeting, when all the delegates came together, was called the First Continental Congress. One of the biggest things that came out of that meeting was delegates voted to ban all trade to Britain until the intolerable acts were repealed. Okay, on the next slide, we'll talk a little bit about why they thought banning trade to Britain or from Britain would help them get things changed. Okay, again, you can pause, but I'm going to move on because of time. But I'm going to move on to our next slide. So this is First Continental Congress, also kind of continued. So while they were at this Continental Congress, this first like formal meeting of delegates, they said, hey, you know what? We really should prepare and make sure that each colony is ready to act. So if we begin training troops, that will help us feel confident that we're ready to take action if we need to. Okay, that second bullet point there is one of my favorite things because this meeting of the minds of the delegates, it marked a really important or key step in American history because it showed that the colonists said, we are beyond determined to uphold our rights as colonists. And then that last bullet point, it says this meeting really planted seeds of a future independent government. How those men came together, discussed their passions, discussed the future, discussed their path, their goals. It was just really kind of foreshadowing of what they were going to see in their future. They were very excited, very passionate about that. This next slide, it says, well, okay, colonists were hoping for what? Like, what's the end goal here? They said, okay, if we can get a trade boycott to work, that would really force a repeal or like the stop or the getting rid of the intolerable acts. They said it technically did work with the Stamp Act and the Townsend Acts. If you're like, what the heck is the Stamp Act? What the heck is the Townsend Acts? Or even intolerable acts, you can always pause and Google search that. This time, though, they were really kind of frustrated because they said, well, it worked with the Stamp Act and the Townsend Act. Maybe it'll work here with the intolerable acts. However, the British Parliament said, no, like, we've had enough. So as you can see, like, tensions are definitely rising, right? That third bullet point, I don't know why it's gray, says the British Parliament even increased restrictions on colonial trade. So instead of backing down, they just got more serious and more stern and more firm with what they wanted to see with the colonies and their trade. And also, they said, hey, you know what? We're going to send more troops into the colonies because we can kind of sense that the colonists are getting ready and preparing for a potential battle, war, fight. We should do the same. Okay, so I believe that this is our second to last slide. It says, these are some concrete ways of how colonists defied Parliament. When it says defied, we basically just mean how did they go against? What were some actual ways that they were saying, we're going against your beliefs, your laws? Okay, first bullet point, it says large groups gathered to prevent British appointed judges from holding court. They said, we're going to gather people and we're going to show you that we don't want you to do that. Second bullet point, it also forced many unelected British government officials to resign. They said, if we didn't elect you, you shouldn't be a leader. The only leaders should be people that we have chosen as a group that are going to represent us. The third bullet point, it says the people, whoa, drama, the people of Massachusetts elected a provincial congress. So they said, we're going to create our own kind of like unit of government. And that unit of government is going to have the power to collect our own taxes and raise our own army. So all of that was defying the royal governor in that area. And so they were like, don't really care what you think. We're going to do what's best for us. The last bullet point, it shows us like we are at a breaking point, you guys. By the end of 1774, some colonists were preparing to fight. Like they were actively planning, how can we be in a war with British soldiers? It's like, what? Okay, second bullet point, it says leaders were also calling for war. So it wasn't just like citizens who were like, I'm mad. It was like leaders of the colonies were saying, okay, we're uniting. That third bullet point was a quote that I found from my research. It said, most colonial leaders believed that any fight with Britain would be short. They thought that a public show of force would make the British Parliament change its policies. Okay, tomorrow you're going to see that there are a few more notes. Today, just tackle these. Okay,